Welcome to the dumbest smart guy podcast on the planet. This is the Central Unintelligence Podcast.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. The dumbest smart guy podcast on the internet, full of the only place that you can become a certified amateur historiologist right here on the Central Intelligence Podcast.
It's fucking Schrodinger's podcast, dude. We're simultaneously idiots and geniuses at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on how you observe this episode, that will affect the outcome.
Yeah, that will affect the outcome. So I will say this. It's not our fault that we're stupid. It's actually your fault. Because on our end, we're doing genius work here. So it's actually your fault. So you're the dumb one. But anyways, if you want to become an amateur historiologist, you can go to GameRageMagazine.com. And if you listen to all of our other podcasts, it will unlock your certification that you can get. That's basically just us flipping you off. And it's a giant middle finger saying you're an amateur historiologist. Good for you. Good for you. And you can do that at GameRageMagazine.com, or you can go to Instagram and TikTok at GameRageMagazine, Twitter/X at GameRageMag. All Gas No Trash official if you want to hear some wonderful musical musings by Adam.
And if you want to get that ass band, you can, check me out at All Gas No Trash official on Instagram.
Yeah, if you want to get that ass banned. And by the way, if you are a shitbag, you can just go ahead and ban yourself. All right? Just ban yourself.
True.
Take care of it. We don't want to worry about it.
Jesus, you fucking you did homework.
I did. I wrote a whole fucking little thing here. It's just quick notes just to like remember to trigger the core memories in my brain that I fucking learned last night.
Trying to relive the Weimar Republic.
Basically, yeah. Like, well, okay, so that brings us to our obvious topic here is
you actually went through the Assassin's Creed process and
yes.
You went through the memories of your blood. No, Paul.
I jumped in an animus and I fucking went back in history and I relived my ancestors who, may or may not have been in Germany at the time. I don't know. I'm not going to confirm or deny anything. All right. You haven't seen my 2-3-me, so get fucked. Okay. That's not public information yet. So, anyways, but this little series, I think I'm just going to I think it's just going to be called Cyclical History because there are a lot of examples of things in history repeating themselves. And again, that's where we get the phrase, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, right? And I just kind of wanted to see where the rise, because obviously we've been having as of late in the Roaring 20s. It seems to be, at least in the 20th and 21st centuries, that the Roaring 20s seem to be the rise of right-wing fucking ideologies. All right. It just seems to be the case. I haven't done enough research yet to figure out why that may be, but it just seems to be this is kind of the history repeating itself. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a theory that it mostly has to do with economic downturns.
Yeah, it's very likely.
I don't know if it's largely that, but I'm inclined to believe that it is at least plays some role because the timing of when this arises is too coincidental. But then again, I'm not a professional historiologist, so
you're only an amateur historiologist.
I'm only an amateur, but. Shit, man. I mean, when you think about the fallout of World War I and the countries that were affected that had to pay reparations or money back to, because what was the money that Germany was owed to the countries that actually won World War I, right?
Yeah, to the Allied countries,
to the Allied forces, right?
Yeah, they owed like reparations for basically they were gonna have to pay them back over like 100 years or some shit like that.
Yeah, and shit. So like now we're kind of revisiting, not exactly with the circumstances for Germany, but just a different flavor of economic downturn again. and the mass migration of Middle Easterners because they've been displaced by ISIS. Now, instead of Jews, now it's people from the Middle East, people of Muslim faith, or Arabic people, or Persian people, and all that shit. Now their population is starting to integrate, or maybe not integrate, or becoming part of a country. And I think France was very vocal about not taking in. Well, shit. At one point, yes, they were, because it's like, fuck, what are we gonna do with these people? It's like, I mean, they can't just go back to their country. But Sweden is having symptoms of like shit like that, where at least from what I remember is that people were speaking out against these refugees who were taking government aid and then starting their own kebab shops. So it's like, that was some of the cases that people were talking about, where it's like, shit, we've been here forever, and these motherfuckers are just showing up and getting government aid to start their own businesses in their own country. Right. And also then it does become a little bit of national or cultural pride, where they say, well, I don't know if I want these people that have a darker complexion than me, or whatever it might be. I don't know if maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't know if I don't know if I want them to integrate with our cultural institution that we have here in France or Sweden or even Germany. Right. Even Germany started to it's starting to revisit that shit. Yeah.
Well, their right wing party is now becoming, like, they're gaining fucking leverage in their parliament.
The alternative for Deutschland, or alternative for Germany.
Right. Yeah. And so I was kind of looking into the history of politics in Germany. Right. And so I figured you got to go all, because obviously the last major right wing institution was the Nazi Party, basically during World War, or pre-World War II. Mm-hmm. So I figured, fuck it, let's just go back and let's just look at, because I was going to do Europe as a whole as an entire episode, but now tonight obviously we're like on a time crunch to do basically 30 to 40 minute long episodes, which is fine. I actually think this is going to work out better because it can give each country its like time. This would be a series over the next this is going to be a series over the next probably several months of talking about cyclical history amongst certain countries. And so with Germany, we're kind of going to be focusing on the rise of essentially what was like right wing fascism, and sort of also how it plays into today as well, and how it's been cyclical. So one of the things that's very interesting that a lot of people don't really know or understand is that during World War I, Germany was not a free, whatever you want to call it, federal, like a democracy, right? It was a federal monarchy. Okay, there was the Kaiser Wilhelm II. He was the motherfucker in charge of Germany. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about how, when Germany lost, or the Axis quote unquote powers lost World War I, as part of that whole deal, they had to pay reparations. All of the royalty of basically Germany, Prussia, Austria, Hungary, fucking that whole Axis powers, they all had to abdicate their thrones and step down. That was part of the deal that was built into the Treaty of Versailles. It was like, yo, you motherfucking monarchs, you need to calm your tits. You need to fucking give up your power, and you need to have like free elections and fucking all this bullshit, right? So Germany went from being a federal monarchy in 1918 to 1919, essentially becoming a parliamentary sort of like democracy republic, right? That was kind of what they turned into. And so with that came the growing pains of forming a new country, right? Because basically, you had no more monarchy. You had no more central institution of banking. You had no more central institution of everything. The whole government got reset. And you had people who didn't really think that it should go one way, people who thought it should go another way. So you got all these little factions rolling around, right? And one of the funny things is that they had to reform and be known as what was referred to as the Weimar Republic. And so they ended up losing 13% of their territory, and every colonial land that they had, all their colonies that they owned in Africa and the Pacific Ocean, or the Pacific, they had to give up everything as part of the Treaty of Versailles, which is very interesting when you look at part of the reasons why Hitler went back to Africa during World War II and started taking places in Africa, and why he made a deal with the Japanese was to get those historic things that were Germany's back, right? And that was sort of the platform that he was kind of gaining support from. And you'll see why here in a minute as to why that became very prevalent and how he got into power. So basically from like 1918, 1919 to like 1933, they were this Weimar Republic. They were very heavily dependent on loans because you're getting this new country. You already owe a shit ton of money. Like basically you're never going to get out of this hole that you owe from these war reparations of World War I. So their economy started off sort of bad in the early 20s. And then by like about 1924, they had kind of what was referred to as like, I guess these golden years. And it was because they'd become heavily dependent on loans for the United States government. And they were getting all these loans to help rebuild their infrastructure, to get manufacturing, to make more money so that they could pay the reparations and also have money to run a country, right? So Germany went through these, I guess, like prosperous years from, 1924 to 1929. And during that time period, there was a very large uprising in, I guess, extreme liberalism or left-leaning ideals. There was a lot of what is referred to as, whereas right-wing conservatism is sort of the religious kind of conservatism, right? That's the opposite of what you would consider what was going on in Germany at this time. So there's a lot of debauchery. There was a lot of, loose morals, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. And there was a lot of, people that were starting to yes, they were benefiting from this. Oh, cool, man. We get to go out and we can just, I'm not saying this is like an exact thing, but like, oh, cool. We're going to go to like orgy parties and shit, like, right. But that's like some of the stuff that was going on, right? It was very fast and loose with the morals during this time period.
So it's like the roaring 20s in the US.
Exactly. And the reason they were able to do that was because, again, the United States was heavily fucking loaning them money like a motherfucker, loaning them money at ridiculous interest rates. And Germany was spending it like it was on fire. So because of all this money that they had, they could institute a lot of socialist, socially liberal programs, right? So everybody's getting paid, everybody's getting money, everybody's getting shit handed out to them. People have money to spend. It's helping lift up their economy. It's sort of like a wave effect, right? If the government's got money that they can give people for social programs that maybe don't have jobs, if they can spend money to give them jobs, then that guy has money in his pocket. So then he can go to other businesses and it's like a wave. It just makes everything, rises the level of the economic ocean that everybody's in, right? So 1929, Black Friday, the stock market crash in the United States happens and fucks everyone because the United States has been for like the last 10 years just fucking loaning money left and right, giving it out like it's no big deal, right?
Do you mind if I ask if the U.S. at the time was the reserve currency? The U.S. dollar was the reserve currency?
Not yet. That didn't come until World War II.
Oh, damn it. What's that line from Star Wars? Not yet. You do not hold the title.
He's like,
yeah.
What does he say? He's like, yeah, what the fuck is the line? Now it's like you do not hold the title. We grant you the rank of master, but you do not hold the title. Or we grant you the seat, but we do not grant you the title master. And he's like,
this is unfair.
This is unfair.
That's Hitler.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Anakin Skywalker is Hitler and he's Space Hitler. Yeah. Like that's fucking basically what he is.
Yeah.
So during this Great Depression that hits, the Weimar Republic, aka Germany, gets fucked because now there's no more money coming in. No more money. All their aid is gone. They're fucked. Oh, maybe that was Chloe opening the door to go pee or something and she opened their own door. Anyways, they're fucked. They're screwed. Massive unemployment, massive hyperinflation. Okay. A loaf of bread is like $1 million marks or whatever. Like it's like $1 million, which is fucking ridiculous, right? So during this time period, to go back a little bit, about Hitler, right? Obviously, he was in World War I, gets out. Hitler worked his way and became the leader of the Nazi Party in 1921. Okay, that's a long time before. Wait, let me pause it real quick. Okay, anyways, sorry. So, let me pull my notes back up here. Yeah, so Hitler in 1923, he tried to lead a coup, okay, against and overthrow the government. He tried. Obviously, he failed. And that's how we get the book Mein Kampf, because when he was in jail, that's when he wrote the book of My Struggle, right? So he was supposed to get 5 or 10 years in jail, and he only ended up spending like a year in jail. Okay. So in 1924, he comes right back in charge of the Nazi Party again, which was the National Socialist Workers' Party. And what was funny is they were originally just called the Workers' Party. And they were trying to go away from because there was a lot of communism that was coming about that was starting to be the big main topic. So they're trying to get away from that. And they were like, we don't want to be associated with communism. We're like the anti-communism, I guess, for lack of a better term. And so essentially, he takes the Nazi Party from 1924 to 1932. And that's where shit starts getting very interesting, is because in 1932, the Nazi Party had the most seats of the German parliament, the Bundestag, or it's like the Bundestag or something like is what they call it.
Okay.
They had the most seats in the parliament, but they weren't the majority yet. So they had the most seats of any party, but they weren't the single majority. So they weren't 51% or whatever, right?
They weren't granted the title of master.
Exactly. So, however, because they had right-wing ideology allies, okay, because there were 2 or 3 other right-leaning parties that existed, they said, hey, we got all these guys, right? All these votes. If we team up with like 2 of you, we could have the majority and we could call all the shots.
You're talking about like the faction, like the
political factions. Right. Yeah. So, one of those parties, the guy who was the president was, Hindenburg. Okay. Hindenburg was the president at the time. And so in 1933, they convinced Hindenburg to make Hitler the Chancellor of Germany.
Oh, yeah.
And so then Hindenburg's like, this is going to be a great idea. Hey, this is going to give some power to them so that these people feel like they're represented, right?
Oh, man.
And what a fucking mistake that was, because just a year later in 1934, guess who fucking dies? Hindenburg. So then Hitler says, oh shit, I was basically the number 2. So now I can just take over. So in 1934, Hitler succeeds him and basically appoints himself as the guy in charge of Germany. And
as chancellor?
As the Chancellor of Germany. He appoints himself as now there's going to be no one else. So we have this time frame of 19, because he's like, oh, it starts out as, oh, until we can get another guy in, or until we can whatever, right? Till we can hold elections, let's say. Because if you look at when Hitler came into power in 1934, he did not invade Poland until 1939 to kick off World War II. So there was a 5-year period that he was just maintaining himself, consolidating power. And one of the things they did was they fucking they lit the parliament on fire, and they blamed it on communists. And they said, this horrible attack, you know what? Now, because of these traitors in our midst, this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to say, hey, erase anybody in the government positions that are not elected, and we're going to start over. And we're going to put all new people in, and anyone who's not loyal to me is out. You're not getting any fucking positions. So when that happened, that allowed the government to start, and because of they were capitalizing on the crisis, everybody was like, oh my God, this terrorist attack just happened. We need to do something about this. So everyone all agrees, like right after 9/11, the Patriot Act gets made. Well, right after the Reichstag fire, they basically say, we need to make the Patriot Act right now, real quick. So they do, and they basically eliminate most opposition from Hitler and allow him to maintain power, right? Through the right-wing socialist nationalist, it was like this nationalist take on it. And if you look at the time frame of 1923 until Hitler, 1921, he was the leader of the Nazi Party. And then all the way up until 1933, when he got appointed as the Chancellor of Germany by Hindenburg, that's 12 years. A 12-year time frame that it took him to go from a small-time party that didn't really fucking matter to turning it into now he's the dictator of the country, basically.
Yeah, and one thing you forgot to, one thing you've forgotten to mention is how the people received that, because prior to this, I'm sure they were quite upset with the cost of living, with bread being $1 million marks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I was getting there.
Okay. All right.
So the reason why this rise took so long was because of the relatively good economic times they had in the middle of that, right when that was happening. And it got everybody kind of, that's why his coup failed in 1923, because times were starting to be good. He tried to take over the government, right? And didn't work because he couldn't get the support, because times were starting to get better and people were like, we're not willing to fucking die for this. Like, let's just hold on a minute here. But once 1929 hits and everybody's fucked, everybody says, oh shit, the reason why we're in this position, and this is one of the things that Hitler did a very good job of actually, I don't know if you want to call it like fake newsing, but basically saying, hey, the reason we're in this position is because of all these lefties that are over here trying to pay these war reparations and taking all this money, and now we're fucked because of it. So why are we allowing all this fucking hedonism and debauchery to take place? And now here we can't even afford to feed our families.
Dude, that is a hard argument to dispute, because you see people having these cabarets and fucking orgies and shit, and you're not eating so good or you're not living so well. And this guy that is appealing to your emotions fucking makes a good case, dude.
Yeah, because the economic hard times didn't necessarily affect the people who were of social high status as much as it did the people down at the bottom. And it became an issue of an us versus them, the haves versus the have-nots. And if you look at that tactic, and we're going to do an episode, if you want to listen to a full episode on what's referred to as Project 2025, you can go listen. There's going to be a no party preference episode that's going to come out probably basically the next day after you listen to this. If you have, it might already be out depending on when you listen to this, but go look on the No Party Preference page and in your local podcast app, and you can see when the Project 2025 episode. We'll get deep into this, of how this playbook of how Hitler did this and how the Nazi Party did this. It's not the same playbook, but it kind of rhymes with Project 2025 of what Trump is supposedly going to do if he wins office, right? It's like I said, it's not a word for word ripoff like a lot of people are saying, but it most certainly does, like I said, rhyme. Yeah, good.
Also, somebody made a point on, I don't know what video I saw, but it was talking about how authoritative figures end up being in the position that they are, is you create this perpetual like enemy.
Yeah.
You don't say it's a person, because then it ends there. So if you say Osama bin Laden was the person, that's where it ends when he dies. You say the war on terror, because you could always move the goalpost of who you're targeting.
Yeah, who we're going after next.
So it's ambiguous.
Right.
So it's like the war on drugs, the war on terror. literally every war is ambiguous with the intention that you're always going to move the goalposts to keep people in a state of fear or something like that.
Yeah, and that's basically Hitler came from this benevolent place to at first. I just want us to be able to eat, right? I just want us to be able to afford things and have decent things for everyone. To then, hey, I think we should have all of our because he's getting riled everybody up, saying, hey, we need to go back to having what we had before the end of World War I. All the German lands need to be back with us. That's the whole reason why he started World War II. He had to make good on those promises. And when he became the dictator, essentially, or the Fuhrer, you got to make good on that, or else your ass is going to be tossed out. Because if we put you into power and you don't fucking do what we said you were going to do, we'll take you right out real quick.
Yeah, I mean, shit. If he doesn't deliver on those promises, he's fucking dead. So it's like die or deliver.
Yeah.
But it's just as you were saying, it does fucking rhyme with more contemporary times, and it started off, this is the enemy, these liberal people that are having these parties, and
the deep state,
whatever the deep
it's an unreal, because it's not even, that's like such a fucking broad fucking thing. But that, again, you could it's the war on terror, same thing. You can move that goalpost of the deep state to forever.
Yeah.
Which that Project 2025, the whole goal of it is to eliminate anyone in government service who's not loyal to Trump. Like, it literally says that. Like, that's the whole fucking plan or one major portion of their plan.
Yeah.
And it's also to, well, like I said, we'll talk about it.
We'll save it for the episode. But I mean, shit, the goalpost for returning Germany to its greatness, that could have no end to that could have no end, because you could say, well, this belonged to Germany, we want to reclaim the lands, or we want to attack France because, well, they fuck with us. So it's like, we need to establish the military force on other countries so they know not to fuck with us.
Yeah, and here, okay, look at, we can look at this whole thing being cyclical, because again, look at Russia, what's happening right now. You have Putin, a guy who's been in charge for 25 years now, almost, right? Almost going on 30. And look how long it's taken him to now he's saying, hey, we are invading another country to get back what was ours. We want what was ours, our historical lands. He's been telling everybody this. Oh, we want the Soviet Union. We want all those back. Okay, we want that back. And whether they're going to get it or not, it's another story. But now he's got to make good on those promises. And that's why he invaded the Ukraine. You have to start making good on those promises. China kind of saying the same shit. We want back our historical lands, AKA we're looking at you, Taiwan, right? It's not the same playbook word, or it's not the same plays, but it's the same playbook, kind of. It rhymes with it. It's very similar. And hey, shut up, cat. Fucking just whining. So it's funny how
she's got a case of the horny.
Yeah, basically. 100 years ago, this whole thing started for Hitler, right? And now it's resurfacing again with, now one of the funny things is, like, people are probably gonna use this to say that I'm saying Trump is Hitler. I'm not saying that. I think Trump's too old to be Hitler, because Hitler was a young guy when he started this process, or he was at least in his 40s when he started this fucking process, or late 30s. Trump's almost 80, so that's not fucking. He's basically 80, so he's not going to be the guy that sees. He could be the guy that implements this, but whoever the next guy is, that's who's going to be. And I don't think it matters if Biden wins or if Trump wins. I don't think it matters now. I think what matters is whoever wins is going to put this plan into place and begin the Hitlerization process of the United States government, and only putting in people who are loyal to them. And we'll go, like I said, into detail how that mechanism, they have that set up to happen.
So you're saying, yeah, I got you. We'll save that for...
Yeah, we'll save that for that one. But that's what I'm saying, is how the history is cyclical, because this same thing is almost happening all over again.
Every 100 years, huh?
That's what it seems like right now, at least from the last 100 years. Now it seems like this is happening. Again, 1929 was the last major world depression stock market crash. It's 2024. We're only 4.5 years away from 1929. Is the cyclical thing going to happen again? Well, I mean, maybe it won't happen in 1929 exactly, but Jesus Christ, everybody's saying in terms of economics that all the same signs that existed as to why the stock market Great Depression was going to crash, they are showing themselves now. And no one's believing it because the stock market looks like it's doing great. Well, up until the morning of October fucking 9th, 1929, the stock market was looking great and it was at all-time highs and then just shit itself one day. So that's where maybe that's another cyclical thing that can happen almost 100 years later again. And maybe it's not the same play, but it rhymes. It's not the same words, but it kind of goes in line with it. And Italy was another one that had, and it had a right wing, which Italy doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I mean, we've already hit the 30 minutes, but I'll just say real quick about Italy. You can tune into another episode about Italy in the next week or so, because we're going to probably do these once a week, a little 30-minute cyclical history fucking tidbit. And maybe we'll focus on a single country. Maybe we'll focus on a single like topic, but it'll be similar to this. It'll rhyme, as they say. But Italy was funny because Italy had this almost identical rise of right-wing fascism, the same way Hitler came in the early 1920s. And what was funny as fuck is Italy was on the Allied side during World War I. They were not on the losing side of that war. And we'll get into that more when we do the Italy episode. But it's funny how it's like, goddamn, two countries that experienced the World War I on two different sides ended up having the same trajectory into right-wing fascism dictators running their countries. So very fucking interesting. Very interesting.
And on a cliffhanger for the next episode, did you have more to add for the pertinent to Germany?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
But yeah, that'll be the cliffhanger for the next episode about Italy.
How funny that Biden's on the verge of dying. And
yeah, very funny.
Like Hindenburg.
Yeah, very, very funny. Very fun. Man, maybe Kamala's Hitler. Maybe. Who knows?
I don't know. We'll see. Shit.
Yeah.
Only history will tell.
That's true. Only history will tell. Anyways, all right, cool. Well, that was fun. A little fun. I think this series is going to be fun. This was very interesting. It was informative. I hope people learned some shit because again, this is stuff that I've read and fucking forgot. I was like, oh yeah, fuck, I remember that. That's fucking how it went down. God damn this. Fuck, man. Interesting shit that a lot of people probably don't know. So it's just fun to do. Anyways, all right. Well, if you want to listen to us, go to GameRageMagazine.com. You can hear the whole slew of podcasts we have available. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Adam is at Burp, All Gas, No Trash Official. And you hear wonderful musical. I don't want Adam shits on things that are bad. I was gonna say musical diarrhea, but that's not. That's not right.
And there's also hot locals in your area, and that's us.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you want to listen to if you want to see hot locals or meet hot locals in your area, to go to GameRageMagazine.com.
That was the latest episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe and like on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. We're also on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also our website, www.GameRageMagazine.com.